we can force a bill out for a House vote. And that's all we're doing is ask that it be on the floor and debated as a House vote. And incidentally, what's great about this bill is it says that Christians get priority to come into the U.S., but only with verifiable vetting, which includes polygraphs and questions to find out about their faith and belief system. So I hope you'll sign this. So while she's going to pass that out, let's go on with some of these other issues here. Next. And then we have the growing economic nightmare. Deficit of 498. National debt, $20 trillion. That's robbing the kids and the grandkids. That's robbing us of prosperity. We have close to $18 billion instead of going for national defense and justice. It's going into the pockets of China because of our debt. We've got a situation where we have had the worst economic growth rate since the 1940s, about 1.4%. That's like the economy going about 20 miles an hour when it should be going 80 or 85 miles an hour. We have jobs being robbed of millennials where in a whole generation, their job, instead of in their what they graduated from and what their capabilities are, they're at Starbucks or in their parents' home. It's unbelievable. So we got to turn this around as well. Next. I just saw a list of these. These are stores closing. And lost jobs were 69,000. New jobs, mostly part-time, are 43,000. We're going backwards. We're going backwards, and that's not what we should be doing. Next. So let's get into the vote. We've got key issues. That's why this election is so important, these key issues. First of all, you're going to hear some Christians say, I just cannot vote for president because it's just too horrendous what's going on. Or I'm not going to vote for anybody. Or I'm going to vote, just protest vote for a party. And I would suggest we consider Obadiah 1:11. It says, Christians do not escape moral responsibility by doing nothing. Obadiah rebuked the people of Edom for doing nothing when the Babylonians had conquered Jerusalem. Here's what it says. On the day that you stood aloof, on that day foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem. You were like one of them. In other words, it's like promoting that which is worse by doing nothing. And we see this as a biblical principle. Whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it's sin. And Christians should influence the election. Jeremiah 29:7 says, Jeremiah said this to Jews in exile in Babylon, seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord in its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. We're supposed to be salt and light in our society. Now, as Christians, there's two ways to vote. The lesser of two evils is evil, or strategically limiting evil. Now, you're going to vote one of those two ways, and both of them are honorable, legitimate Christian points of view. I have an article on the website if you really want to dig more deeply into the theology and the ideas of this, but here it is in a nutshell. Lesser of two evils is evil says that if a candidate doesn't match up to what I believe is right all the way, I can't vote for that candidate. And usually that means I'm only going to vote for Jesus Christ or myself, Now, we see this a lot with pro-life, that if I'm against abortion and I'm for pro-life, if any candidate is for any type of abortion, I can't vote for that candidate. And that's a legitimate point of view. Strategically limiting evil is a different point of view. Strategically limiting evil says candidate number one is for abortion under any and all circumstances. Candidate number two is for abortion except not partial birth abortion in the last trimester. And strategically limiting evil says if I vote for candidate number two, I'm saving some lives. And that's a better moral good, even though I'm holding my nose. Does that make sense? Ben Carson said this: if you have a paper cut, it really hurts, and you really don't like it. But if you have your legs shaved off, that's going to be worse and more painful. What's your choice? You know, do you say, it doesn't matter? No, it does matter. Some things are worse than another. Corrie ten Boom faced this. Anybody remember Corrie ten Boom? Great book. Good movies. So Corrie ten Boom, she was hiding Nazis. I say that too many times. She was hiding Jews from the Nazis in the Netherlands. So she's hiding these Jews, and along comes, at the door were Nazis. And he said, "Are you hiding Jews?" What was her answer? No. Now, the lesser of two evils, she would have said yes. She would have been killed. Her family would have been killed. The Jews would have been killed. She had the hard moral dilemma of prioritizing what the Bible would say is the higher priority of life. You've got to protect life. That's what we find in the Bible, protecting life and the importance of life. And so she took the strategically limiting evil point of view. Does that make sense? So you need to make that decision. Next. Now, we do a lot of research on the candidates, but God knows our heart. We take a look and see who not only has endorsed them, but who they've endorsed in the past. Not only who has contributed to them, who have they contributed to in the past. We know more about them than probably their spouse. And I gotta tell you, they get very uncomfortable with what we learn. Next. Now, one of the things in this election, if you're registered to vote, if you have any registration, you get this in the mail, right?